SeizurBusiness.com podcast with Tony Rourke and Kevin O'Flaherty.
SeizurBusiness.com, making you money.
Share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn,
Twitter, our blog, YouTube videos. Listen to our podcast, getting so hot that it's burning up the stereo.
Welcome to the SeizurBusiness.com podcast. My name is Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law. I'm joined today by Vernon Clifton from Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. And our topic today is going to be liability insurance and why it's important. So thanks for being here today, Vernon.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I really appreciate you having me here.
So tell us about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Vernon Clifton. I am an agent with Liberty Mutual Insurance. I've been working here a little under, tomorrow will be a year. So it's actually flown by really quickly. Before that, I did sales with Liberty, Verizon, did that for a year, and then for 7 years before that, I worked at AT&T. So I've been doing sales for quite a while. Was looking for a pretty big change, and it was a pretty big change. I'd never done anything in insurance before, but definitely learned a lot. You learn a lot quick. So I've been doing this, like I said, for a little bit over a year, and I absolutely love it. It's a really, really great thing. I had my daughter a year and a little bit ago, so that kind of helped out with the scheduling. But yeah, thanks. Yeah, the scheduling definitely helped out with this new job. A lot more weekends so that I get to see her. So it's really, really helped out a lot. I truly enjoy it.
So what's the difference between sales at Liberty Mutual or in the insurance context versus the other sales jobs you've had?
Well, to be totally honest with you, they're about the same. I mean, it's the whole idea of sales is to be able to convince somebody that they want something that you have, and everything translates. So whether you're selling cars or whether you're selling cell phones or insurance, it's all going to translate to the same sorts of things. So I took a lot of the things I learned at AT&T and Verizon and brought those over to Liberty, but I learned a whole lot of different things from here as well that I've been able to craft to kind of create more of a personalized experience for my clients and the people that are looking for insurance.
So before we dive into the topic about liability insurance, you piqued my interest. What are some of the things that you learned that are kind of universal with the sales that you might be able to teach the people that are listening to the podcast?
Well, yeah, one of the things that I've kind of noticed that is universal across the board is that there are walls that you have to break down before you actually get to the root cause of what somebody actually wants. So somebody says, what's the thing that somebody says when they go in the shop? What's the one thing that they always say when a salesman tries to approach them?
I'm just browsing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just browsing. Well, they're not just browsing. They came there for a reason. They're looking for something specific, but they're just trying not to be sold on something. So that's something that I've noticed with wireless sales. Actually, I did book sales a long time ago too as well. So that as
they still have those?
Yeah, I know, right? A lot of people they still have those. So I sold books for a while. The same thing there. Same thing with insurance. A lot of people are just strictly looking, and they don't really want to tell you exactly what they're looking for because no one really wants to be sold. So it's up to us as sales agents to kind of break down those barriers and kind of find out what the root cause of what they're looking for, and kind of become more of like a trusted advisor rather than a sales agent to the clients.
So really more educating the client and letting them pick from, once they're educated, letting them decide what they want.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to get out of the mindset that you know exactly what they need right off the get go. You want to make sure that you're recommending something that's actually relevant to them, and that's how you kind of set yourself apart from a lot of sales agents and sales professionals that are out there today.
I find that in my own practice when I'm doing, estate planning, I'll have, I'll basically gather the information first, and then the next step is just say, I'm going to teach you what a trust does, what a will does, what powers of attorney do. You let me know what you think you need, and, we'll go from there. And people tend to like that, not trying to, off the bat, fit them into a particular box.
Yeah, and I think that's really how people want to be sold, and that's kind of how I think it really needs to be done. So yeah, it's good that you guys are doing that as well.
Let's talk about liability insurance.
Absolutely.
I'll let you kind of go crazy on this, because I don't know much about liability insurance.
Well, yeah, it's definitely one of the things a lot of people really aren't aware of how it works or exactly what it does. So that's kind of why I wanted to speak a little bit about it and kind of clear up some of the misconceptions that a lot of people have today about liability insurance and auto insurance in general. And it's really sad because I think nowadays a lot of insurance companies are the ones that are perpetuating these stereotypes and perpetuating these misconceptions to their clients because everyone's trying to undercut each other, which is, you want to save money, but I think a lot of times what happens is some clients or some companies are starting to, rip coverage out and take things away from places that shouldn't be moved. So hopefully this should be a review for a lot of people, but really what I want to hopefully do is be able to get a lot of people to understand exactly what their coverage is, why they have it, to be able to explain that to someone else.
Yeah, a lot of business owners, I'm the point of first contact, they're incorporating, and I tell them, you need a good insurance guy. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things they need insurance for, depending on the variety of the business, whether it's just slip and fall liability on the premises or, workers' comp insurance. That sort of thing. Are you able to kind of go over kind of the menu of just kind of identify, here's the things that you should be insured for,
yeah,
and here's the gaps if you don't have these things?
Yeah, so I don't dabble in a lot of commercial insurance, but I do have like some knowledge of what you should have. Now I know for a fact, obviously you want to have workers' compensation because obviously if something happens, you don't want to be found liable for that. It can get extremely expensive, extremely hairy. I mean, I'm sure you know the litigious society we live in today. I mean, you can get sued for little without anything. So I mean, that's definitely something you want to have.
And if you don't have it, there's pretty huge penalties if anyone files a workers' compensation claim.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's all sorts of penalties, as you said, for things like that. Now, more on the personal side, because I mean, you always want to make sure you're completely covered on the personal side as well, because what can end up happening is, if you end up getting into a really bad accident and you don't have adequate coverages, I mean, what are they going to come after? They're going to come after your most valuable assets, whether that's your house, business, garnishing wages. A lot of things can happen, and what I want to be able to do again is just kind of explain how you should be insured to make sure that you are insured correctly, and if not, then you can kind of get an idea of what you should be asking for with your agents.
Okay, go for it.
All right, so like I said earlier, one of the main misconceptions of auto insurance is that auto insurance there is strictly to repair a vehicle in the event of an accident, which is one of the things that auto insurance does. It is going to repair your vehicle in the event of an accident, but mainly, again, one of the most important thing that's going to be out there is going to be the liability insurance. A lot of people really don't think about that because every day no one really wants to think about those sorts of things with somebody getting seriously injured in a car accident, but those things do happen, and that's why it's definitely there. I don't know if you've ever had any sort of traumatic experience or broken bones or concussion or anything that we had to go to the hospital, but I'm sure you know how much those sorts of bills are. They're extremely expensive, and one of the things a lot of people don't really realize is health insurance will pay for you, but they won't pay for the other person. Actually, health insurance will go after you for whatever they paid if it's deemed your fault. So we'll say, after I get out of here, I go and I'm driving down the street going home, and I send a text message to one of my friends, and I get into an accident and strike and kill somebody. We'll take it less extreme. We'll say I break a couple of bones on the person that I hit, and they need to go to the hospital. Health insurance may pay some of that, but what's going to happen is their health insurance companies can come after me if it was deemed my fault, and if I was texting and driving, which nobody should be doing. No one should be texting and driving. They're going to come after me to get those funds back for what they ended up having to pay. So a lot of people think that I'll be fine. Health insurance will pay for it, but a lot of times what's going to end up happening is that liability insurance is what's going to kick in, and if you don't have enough liability insurance, it's going to fall on you. And again, if you don't have enough of that liability insurance, they're going to come after your most valuable asset. So again, your home, or garnish your wages. So that's definitely something that can happen, which is why you want to make sure you're adequately covered.
How much is enough liability insurance?
That's a great question, and it's tough to answer on an individual for a broad basis. I mean, it's definitely on an individual basis. So, for instance, my younger brother, he doesn't own a home, but he has a car, and he has a kid, and that's really about it. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of stuff, but he lives a good life. But I mean, you kind of want to basically model your insurance to cover basically your assets. So for me, I have a house that's out here in Downers Grove. What I want to do is have my auto insurance to minimum be able to cover the cost of my house. So if I were to get into an accident that was really, really bad, and then lawyers are, as you know, are going to come after things to pay for the judgments. I mean, you're going to have to they're going to come after the things that matter most to me. So they're going to be the most valuable things in my life. So again, they're going to come after my house. So what I'm going to want to do is make sure that my auto insurance coverage is enough to at least cover the cost of what my house is worth. So in that event, I'd be covered. And then on top of that, a lot of times what I usually recommend for other higher net worth homes or individuals is you want an umbrella package, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but can cover other things that are a little bit that you can get sued for. So slander or libel or frivolous lawsuits. Again, with the litigious society we live in, lawsuits are happening every single day. Another nice thing about the umbrella insurance policies is, in the event of being sued, those funds actually can be used to be paid for lawyers, which is good for you.
Sure.
So if your client you're getting paid and you have that paid out immediately. So it's kind of just like something to fall back on to make sure if in the event of like a really bad accident, you're absolutely covered and you're not having to pay anything out of pocket, because again, these things can ruin people's lives, and you see these on the news and you see it real. On television where someone had a really bad accident and someone died in the accident, someone's being sued and they don't, they're being sued for $500,000 or $1 million. I don't know about you, I don't have $1 million in my bank account, so somebody would sue that for me, that absolutely destroyed me. So that's basically what this liability insurance is for. And again, you want something also in case of a really, really bad accident in the form of an umbrella policy to make sure you are absolutely covered.
So I have a question for you. When it comes, not to put you on the spot, but when it comes to covering yourself against potential lawsuits, my understanding is that you can cover yourself for, your own negligence, right? So if you negligently, didn't fix your roof and it falls on somebody, that would be covered. But I haven't heard of an insurance company offering to cover claims that you did something intentionally, right? So, if you. And that's where my question goes towards the slander and libel sort of thing, because those are usually, intentional. Well, they don't have to be intentional, but will an insurance company actually cover stuff like defamation and...
Defamation and intentional things are not going to be covered. I guess I should have clarified with slander and libel. So say, for instance, you know how that works. I'll be on my Facebook blog and I said, Starbucks has the worst coffee ever, and then Starbucks can relate that post to their sales dropping 20% over the fourth quarter. Well, they want to go after me and sue me for those funds. Well, Liberty would come in and say, well, he has an umbrella policy. We're going to defend him in this specific instance, and up to $1 million would pay out.
Even though you intentionally typed those words?
Yeah, you intentionally typed those words, but you can't. If your intent was specifically to lower their sales, that's definitely something.
Okay, so there's a gray area there.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area. With slander and libel, you never want to really ever do that specifically to injure somebody. But if it's off the cuff, hey, I really don't like this place, and by saying something like that, it lowered somebody's expectations of something else. And, you know how it goes. If somebody decides they want to sue you because of that, we would defend them for that sort of reason.
Is there a way to insure against frivolous lawsuits? So, say if the lawsuit gets dismissed, even if it's an intentional thing, like, let's say a breach of contract in the business context. If that lawsuit, if someone were to sue you for intentionally breaching the contract, but it's, it turns out to be something that's frivolous or non-meritorious, is there any insurance defense against that?
Absolutely, yeah. And an umbrella policy would definitely be something that would also cover against frivolous lawsuits. And if you so choose, we do provide lawyers for you, which obviously they have our best intentions in mind, because we don't want to end up having to pay out a large sum of money, but you also have the option to choose your own lawyers as well. So in that instance, those sorts of things definitely would be covered, specifically frivolous lawsuits would be covered by an umbrella policy. So I always recommend specifically anyone that wants to make sure nothing ever does happen. If it does, you're absolutely covered. Umbrella policies are always going to be a way to go for something like that.
And this might be getting too arcane for what your knowledge base is. So, you're talking to a lawyer here, so I apologize.
No, you're fine.
It's an okay answer to say you don't know. And but how is frivolous, if you're saying I'm covered against frivolous lawsuits, is that something where it's actually, how do you determine whether the lawsuit is frivolous or just non-meritorious? Because there's kind of a difference between losing a legitimate lawsuit and having a lawsuit, deemed frivolous.
Okay.
In just the legal context, you could basically file a motion for sanctions against the attorney that filed the lawsuit if it's frivolous. Is there some kind of test that insurance companies apply to determine whether it's frivolous and covered, or just not non-meritorious and not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they have a whole law department for that. That's something they wouldn't necessarily divulge to every single client, but I know they have a department specifically that decides whether a lawsuit's frivolous or not.
So it's an internal decision.
Yeah, and that's going to be something that, again, it's going to be in our best interest to defend you in those specific instances, because if you do get sued and we have to pay out, I mean, it's going to cost us way more than it would cost us for legal fees. So, I mean, that's...
But if someone wanted more information on, exactly what would be covered or not covered in a lawsuit context, that's something they could probably talk to you about offline, and you could get them answers to those.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something. I mean, on a case-by-case basis, I mean, there's always contacts that I have that would be able to answer those specific questions. Again, with that specific venue, I'm no lawyer. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I warned you it was going to be an arcane. I didn't expect you to necessarily have the answer.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the way out on that one. I appreciate it.
So there's auto insurance, there's liability insurance, umbrella insurance, I guess. Home insurance. What else do people have to worry about, either as an individual or as a business owner?
Well, one thing I hadn't covered specifically just yet was, a little bit diving a little bit deeper into the homeowners insurance. A lot of people really don't think about the liability portion of the homeowners insurance, but you're extremely, vulnerable if you're inviting people into your home, or individuals that may rent buildings out to other people, or have tenants for, investment properties. You're extremely liable, or extremely vulnerable for things that could happen. Somebody slips on a patch of ice. How Chicago is. It gets icy, it gets cold in the winter. If you hadn't shoveled and somebody slips on a patch of ice and breaks their leg, they can definitely sue you for that. So that's definitely what the liability is for there. It covers a lot of different people as well. So your liability insurance for your home will cover anybody that you invite into your home, whether it be a neighbor, a friend, whoever it is, anybody that's invited to the home. Any children that are in the home, they're all covered. Spouses, all covered in the home. Obviously, the named insured, which would be, the person that signed up for that policy, would obviously be covered. And then anyone that's under the age of 21 that's also living there. So, say for instance, you have a foreign exchange student that comes over from Germany and wants to live in your house for 6 months. Well, if they're under the age of 21, they would be covered under that homeowner's policy. Anyone over the age of 21 that is not a family member or is living there for an extended period of time would have to have their own sort of liability policy. But those are all those people that would be covered under that specific type of policy. And a lot of people don't really realize that. They just assume, okay, I have a homeowner's policy, so it just covers me, myself, and my wife, and my kids. But really, anybody that's in the house, employees as well. So, say for instance, you need to have your windows washed, or you hire a landscaping company, and they decide they want to, mow your lawn, and maybe break an ankle on a ditch or something along those lines. I mean, those sorts of things will be covered under your liability as well. So, I mean, it's not going to fall on you if they decide to sue you. It would fall on the insurance company, which again, in our best interest, we want to make sure that we would end up having to pay that, but if we do, we do have that.
Are there some big mistakes that you see people making with their insurance that, people can watch out for?
Yeah, definitely cutting coverage. One I see on auto insurance a lot is individuals getting rid of underinsured motorists and uninsured motorist coverage. Basically what that means is if somebody hits you and they don't have insurance, or they have poor insurance, your insurance company would pay out based on your current coverages. So we'll say someone runs into you and they have state minimum coverage, which is $25,000 per accident, $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident. And we'll say you have fairly good coverage at $250,000 per person, $500,000 per accident. And we'll say this person, rear ends you get whiplash, need rehabilitation, have to go to the hospital, and we'll say you get a concussion when you hit your head on the steering wheel. Obviously, that $25,000 is not going to cut it. So that just isn't going to cut all those sorts of damages and rehabilitation. What Liberty or a lot of other companies, what you're doing, which is good, is they'll say, okay, you have $250,000 per person. We're going to pay out up to $250,000 for this claim. Now, that's not going to get that person off the hook that hit you. They're going to, as I'm sure you know, probably be sued for the remaining amount. So what I've seen a lot of people doing is getting rid of that coverage because it can save a little bit of money. But if you get into an accident, where someone has poor coverage. A lot of people really don't know this. Actually, 30% of drivers out there these days are just driving around with no insurance. So as it's kind of a scary fact. I mean, you get into an accident, you're looking at probably about a 33% chance that the person who hit you doesn't have insurance.
So the state minimum coverage you said was 25,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
25,000 per accident, 50,000, or 25,000 per person that's injured in the accident, and 50,000 maximum.
Okay. So, and this is, I'm not trying to get you on this, just a legitimate question. So let's say I have health insurance, and my car's worth less than 25,000. Is there a gap there? You know, if I don't have that underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage, well, I guess if they're uninsured, they're driving illegally,
Right.
that people do that. But is there a gap to say, that $25,000 will repair the vehicle, my health insurance will, deal with rehabilitation and all that stuff? Where's the need for the uninsured motorist coverage in that?
So the $25,000 and $50,000 coverage is strictly for liability. It does not cover any sort of physical damage to vehicles whatsoever.
Okay.
So we'll say.
Because your own insurance would cover that.
Yeah, it would cover that. Now, if you were found at fault, a lot of times what happens is individuals will strictly have liability on their auto insurance, which again is when it goes to my original point that a lot of insurance companies are yanking coverages to save money. And again, saving money is great, but and not at the risk of pulling coverages, because again, you can be left extremely vulnerable in the case of an accident. I mean, you can end up having to pay like $15,000-$20,000 for an accident. Blink of an eye, you look down and check a text message, and you've already rear-ended somebody. If you don't have adequate coverage, you may end up paying that out of pocket.
So, and I might have just come up with the answer to my own question. So it's the liability for that underinsured motorist coverage. So you're not really talking about just paying your health bills that would be covered by health insurance, but if you're left unable to work or something like that, then or your life has changed and you normally get damages in a lawsuit against somebody in liability, but they don't have insurance, they can't pay for it. Is that where the uninsured motorist insurance would kind of pay for what damages you would normally get in a lawsuit?
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a portion of that, and I think I also kind of like skipped over a certain portion of your question, which I meant to answer. I meant to say something along the lines of how health insurance companies, a lot of people really don't know this, but they don't pay out until auto insurance is exhausted. So if you were to get into an auto insurance accident, obviously. So if you have liability coverage of $25,000 and $50,000 maximum, and you rack up $60,000 worth of damages, well, the insurance company will not pay anything until you've exhausted everything from auto insurance. So that $25,000, which is a maximum per person, is what will be deducted from your health insurance bill, and then they'll pay the rest of that.
Okay. But since this is a business podcast and we've been focusing a lot on individual insurance, just to kind of give some red meat to the business listeners that are tuning in, what are some of the things that you've gone out as a salesperson? How have you gone out and brought clients in? I know you do a lot of networking. What's been working for you in the insurance industry?
Well, yeah, I actually, as like you said, I do a lot of networking, whether that be from business mixers to early AM networking meetings. So generally what I found to be fairly successful for me is building relationships with people to the point where a lot of people recognize me and trust me. And I think you can't do business with somebody truly until you trust them. So that's my approach, is to make sure that everyone can see who I am, and I try and make a visible appearance for myself anywhere I can. So everyone knows if they were to ever trust me with their auto, home, or life insurance, that they know where to find me, because I'm always out doing things with the chamber, or I'm always out doing things with my DNA group. So you always know where to find me. So that's been something that's been fairly successful for me, and I found that a lot of people really like the fact that I'm fairly accessible and also easy to talk to. So that's been working a lot for me. I've just been getting the brunt of my business from.
Okay. Well, if someone wants to reach you and needs to have their insurance reviewed or get some new insurance, how can they reach out to you?
The easiest way is probably going to be by email. It's my first name last name at libertymutual.com, vernon.clifton@libertymutual.com. That's going to be the easiest way to get a hold of me. I answer my phone in my office probably twice a day. I'm usually, like I said, out networking a lot of the time. So you can call my office. I usually get back to voicemails within about 24 hours.
Okay. You're welcome to give out the number if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 630-613-6312. Extension is 09395. apply.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Vernon. It's been great having you
Thanks
here.
for the invitation.
Thanks for educating me.